Hi, I'm Jeremy. Thanks for coming to the channel. Today I'm going to talk about the differences between men and women. I've talked about the pay gap a little bit, but really it would be better to talk about the differences that men and women have, because that explains why there's this wrong idea of a pay gap, because they do different things. And so because they want to do different things, that means they cost different things. So they don't view work the same. Women want to have more of a life-work balance, for example. They're not interested in working all the time because they have a focus on people. And to deal with people, that's kind of free. You can just go up and start talking to them. You can have them over. It doesn't cost very much. But guys, they like things. So they like things like big houses and cars, so that costs more money. So that drives them to work more, to do more hours, to have higher paying jobs than what women have. But in order to understand this better, we should take a closer look to what it is that makes men and women different. So we should start off right here with what the world's strongest man is, and we're going to go through I think all of these are factual. If not, let me know in the comments down below. I'll make changes, but you need to be able to back it up. I'm not interested in your opinion. I mean, you can give your opinion, but I'm not going to heed it any mind if you don't have a link to something that's credible. And that's because I'm tired of being lied to. I don't like it. And I'm going to do something about it besides cry. And if you'll see above my head, I have a Word document pad open. And I do this with some of these videos. And that is, we're going to go over the issue. We're going to see if it's open or closed and why or why not. This is going to be one of them where it's closed. So this is the differences between men and women. And all these things that I do, I'm not trying to change your minds. I might feel strongly about it in one way or another, but if you can bring the evidence to show me otherwise, it's like, well, that's fine. But I'm not trying to change your minds. I'm just trying to show that there's a lot of lying going out there. I don't care if it's intentional or not. Leave it open, and it's to leave it open for you to bring the information, to talk it over, because I'm trying to build up trust. That's what I have to do more than anything, is to build up trust. I don't give a damn if I'm wrong. I know I'm going to be wrong about stuff. Whenever I build this website, I have a system which I'm going to put into this stupid thing, which is going to deal with all of this lying nonsense. And the first foundation of it is that it's going to be a foundation of facts. It's going to take a long time to build. I understand this. I got a big grind ahead of me, so be it. But it is what it is. So if you too, if you're tired of being lied to, if you're tired of the lies and the manipulation, then give this video a like, a thumbs up. It helps me out. I've got Patreon and Subscribestar. And, hopefully we can get this going, the sooner the better. And start hiring people to do content for me, because it's everything. There's no lack of content. And then of course I need to hire, and buy everything that you need for a business. So the first thing that we start off with is defining what it is that we're talking about. And we're talking about a man and a woman. And a man is an adult human male, and a woman is an adult human female. Those are the only two genders there are. If you want to transition from one to another, you have to do surgeries, you have to take estrogen or testosterone, and then you have to have genital mutilation in order to do that. And this is why there are no other genders, because there are no hormone treatments, there's no surgeries, there's no nothing. The rest of it is just fantasy, make-believe, nonsense, BS. So if you want to transition into Z or Zer or Fairykin, it's like, okay, well, what surgeries do you need to partake in? What chemical blockers do you need to take? So if you're a woman, you need to have increased testosterone, and you need to decrease your estrogen, vice versa for men. if you're if you're going to be Z, Zer, or Fairykin or whatever, what do you do for those? So there's only two. I don't give a damn what anybody says. I'm not going to lie. Unless you have some kind of facts and evidence to back that up, you can get out of my face with that nonsense. I don't want to live in this fairy tale lying nonsense thing that you have. And we're going to get right into it right here. Instead of having a side A and side B, I guess this would technically, I'm not, I'm against men and women being equals because I am not like other men. And I am even less like a woman. So men are not clones. Women are not clones. So how are you comparing me to something that I'm not? How are you comparing women to me? We are not alike. Just because a woman might be the closest thing to a man, that doesn't mean that they're the same. It just means there's just the fewest, men and women have the fewest differences between them than they do with any other animal out there. That's what that means. It doesn't mean that there still aren't millions of differences. So instead of, there's a billion differences between a man and a monkey. But there's still a million differences between a man and a woman. Just because it's only a million instead of a billion, that doesn't mean that there's still not just a ton of differences out there. So this guy right here is Brian Shawn. And Brian Shawn is an example of what I've just stated. He is a man. I am a man. I am not one damn thing like this man. I am 6 foot. He is 6'8". I am 180 pounds. He is 435 pounds. He's 39. I'm in my mid-40s. We are not alike. We are drastically different. He is one of the world's strongest men. And you know what? He's even less like women. Women cannot do this. I can't do that. But other men can. There's not a lot of them, but they can. There's not one woman who can. Not one. Again, here he is going to town working some big heavy weight. I cannot do that. But you know what? There are other big guys. I doubt he can, but he looks like he can lift some weight. There are other big men who can. There are a few big men who can actually do this. There are 0 women. You know why? Because men and women are not the same. Look at this guy. He's a beast. You know, all these guys are big. But he's a monster. All these guys are huge. But he's just ginormous. So let's go over some of these things. Here are the facts. Men have X and Y chromosomes. Women have 2 X chromosomes. And there's no amount of surgery that you can ever do to change that. But that will be something that we talk about transgender people. Men typically have thicker skin. And it's because, yeah, you know what? It's not flat across the board. Just like there are some men who are extremely small, some who are extremely tall. Men are not clones. We are not all the same. But men typically have thicker skin by 25%. They also have higher densities of protein collagen. Whenever I was reading this and I was doing this, it reminded me of that stupid commercial of Seth and Amy, Seth Rogen and Amy Schumer with this stupid Bud Light commercial. So if you're younger, maybe you're not as aware of this, but this was 5 years ago with the Super Bowl.
Discuss equal pay.
Women don't get paid as much as men, and that is wrong.
That is an absolute lie, because then, man, everybody should just hire women if they're getting paid less. That makes absolutely no sense, and it's completely against the law. Why wouldn't women and their fathers and brothers and husbands help them just file lawsuit after lawsuit and make bank?
And we have to pay more for the same stuff.
What?
Pay more for the same stuff? What the hell are you talking about? What are some of these things?
Yeah, cars.
What?
Dry cleaning.
What?
Shampoo.
Well, what are you talking about?
What? You pay more?
So cars, dry cleaning, and shampoo. So whenever you go in for dry cleaning, you're telling me that they don't have the prices there on display for everybody, for everything? I know the answer to this. And the answer is that it's all exactly the same, except women's clothes are not like men's clothes. Men's clothes are pretty plain, pretty simple. It's just a shirt. It's just a flat piece of cloth here. But women's clothing, they've got all these little grooves and creases and little furry little things all over it, and so it requires extra attention. They usually can wear things that are a lot more delicate, and they can't handle the abuse that men's clothing do, and they're not as intricate. So yes, there are some women's garments out there that require special attention, special care, so it costs more. Shampoo makes no sense whatsoever either. If you think that men's shampoo is just as good or better than women's, then go buy it. There is no cop who's there who's keeping you from doing it. You know why it's different? Because of what we just mentioned. That men and women do not have the same thickness of skin. So that means that men and women's shampoo and deodorant and all their other hygiene products are comprised of different chemicals. Those chemicals cost different, and because women have sensitive skin, because it's thinner, then that means that you have to pay more for those chemicals. And this is pretty common for most people to know, especially if you're in the health industry. I tried to find a video. There was an old video that came out about the same time, about 5 years ago, with this YouTuber called Shoe on Head. And she talked about how she knew that this commercial was bogus because for a little while she was in some kind of job where she had to sell women's skincare products or something like that. And she said this was one of the first things that they told you, was that women's products are different because women's skin is different, and that was part of the sales pitch. It's like, well, why should I buy this whenever I can go and buy this and it's much cheaper? Because chances are you're going to have a reaction to it because we're women. But that was like 5 years ago, and I tried to look it up a little bit there, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. The differences in density go beyond. Usually men also have stronger and denser bones. Yes, we understand usually if you're that damn stupid. Men also have denser, stronger bones, tendons, and ligaments than women. From about age 14 to 51, women typically need more iron than men. This is due to their loss of blood during menstruation, which typically happens in a cycle of 28 to 40 days. On average, men typically have more muscle mass than women, and those skeletal muscles are faster and more powerful, but women's muscles more readily resist fatigue and are faster to recover. Yeah, what are you going to tell me? That every single woman who's done any kind of power event, whether if it's weightlifting, squats, bench press, whatever, that they've all underperformed so that the men could beat them, that they've done this all throughout history, forever, in every single country across the world? What are you talking about? No. Now, women do have some things. There was, with that men versus women pay gap, I talked about Courtney, and she is an ultra marathon runner where she did the Moab 240, and it's where you run 238 miles. She came in first place. Second place was a guy, beat him by 10 hours. And I saw her on the Joe Rogan podcast. Joe Rogan was making fun of it a little bit on how she had so much time, beat him by 10 hours, which meant she could have driven home, slept for 8 hours, showered, eaten, drove back, and still be waiting on the guy. It's because they do have more endurance than what men do. And I don't know if I knew this one. I think maybe I did, and I've forgotten, but the second longest finger for women is next to their thumb. So in other words, it's this finger is their second longest, the index finger. But men are the opposite. They usually have ring fingers, those next to their pinky fingers, that are longer than their index finger. And that's true for me. This is my second longest finger. This is the longest, this is the second longest, and then this one's the third longest. So with women, these two are flip-flopped. So next time I see a girl, if I can remember, I'm going to see if that's true. I'm sure that it is, but it's just, yeah, just a fun thing to bring up. There are differences in the way male and female brains are structured, how they process information, and react with chemical signals. Some examples: men have more information containing gray matter, but women have more white matter, which contains different parts of the brain. Also, women have bigger memory centers than men. It's like, yeah, because women never forget what you say and they bring it up. I got all this information, I forgot, from AskTheScientist.com, 25 fun facts that makes men and women different. And so right here on number 1, you can see there's that men typically have thicker skin, about by 25%. I didn't put all of them on here because I wanted to keep things that generally the layman would know, that the average person would know about. But there's a lot of chemical differences between the two. So like number 6, folate is an essential vitamin. So men and women both need it, but it's especially crucial for women of childbearing age. If they become pregnant, women need enough folate to support the neural development of their babies. And there's a lot of these chemical differences. I mean, so if we're so different that we are down to the chemicals and the chromosomes that are different between men and women, that affects everything. Are you not aware that what you eat is going to affect you? That what you do for your exercise is going to affect you? That what kind of fuel that you have? And so if you're just automatically different down to the biological chemical makeup of the differences between men and women, of course that's going to affect things. So you're going to experience differences with pay between men and women. Because it's not that whenever they do these research things to find out, like there was one with the BBC where they're like, we're going to make sure that the women are getting paid as much as the men. They found out that actually they were underpaying the men. They had to give them raises. It's because they don't work as many hours. They work less, and they always conflate a bunch of things. You're going to have to watch that video, and I'll go back to it again because that'll come up again, and we'll go over it then. The other things that I took from their list are, during exercise, women's primary fuel is fat. For men, it's carbohydrates. And with this one, you know, that this changes too. You know, if you're on Atkins or paleo or carnivore or whatever, people have different opinions on all this. I don't know why there's not better information on this as to kind of what the facts are. My thought, from what I understand right now, is that it's like 80% of the human species lives next to water, and it's because there's always fish, no matter how cold it is. I mean, you go and you look at Eskimos, they live off of fish and seals. They're not growing any crops up there at all. So how do they get carbohydrates? As far as I know, they don't. And if they do, it's extremely limited. So take all of these with kind of a grain of salt. You know, some are obviously going to be pretty pronounced, but others, you know. The average adult female has about 15 to 70 nanograms per deciliter of testosterone, and the average male has about 270 to 1070, and that is going down. There was this, the Buzz guys or something like that from YouTube, and they went in to get their testosterone checked, and their testosterone levels were lower than like 80-year-old men or something like that. It was ridiculously low, and then they talked about why. Like, men are not as physically active as they once were. We've got all these electronics. We watch a lot of television, movies, we listen to music, and play video games. We're not outside there working as much as what those 80-year-old men used to do. Continuing, men have pronounced Adam apples, and if you don't know what that is, it's this thing right here. Women have it too, but men's are just larger. That's because they have larger voice boxes that make the surrounding cartilage stick out more. It's also why men's voices are deeper. Both sexes hit peak bone mass around age 30. At 40, men and women start losing bone. Menopause accelerates bone loss in women. They talk about that all the time, and they've got like all these kind of like pills that women can take to help offset that. So women 51 to 70 need, well, there you go, 200 milligrams of calcium more than men at the same age. That's 1,200 milligrams per day for women and 1,000 milligrams per day for men. The calorie requirement for men is higher than women. There's a few reasons for this: higher muscle mass, stature, and basal metabolic rate, pound for pound. Muscles burn more than double the calories fat does. So if you want to lose weight, one of the things that you can do is work out to build muscle. I've known about that for a long time, and I guess it's still holding true because they haven't changed their opinions about it. I guess there's no new technology or understanding of that. So men and women carry different amounts of body fat. The higher body fat in women, about 10%, mostly supports reproductive physiology. One example is when a woman's body fat gets too low, she stops menstruating. I think I've heard of this before, but it's been a while. So that's kind of scary. So if you know a girl who is really thin and she ever talks about this, you might want to encourage her to eat. She's probably a little bit too thin. And if you know a girl who's too thin, do not be afraid to offer her food. And I don't know how small she has to actually be for this to happen. I would think it would have to be quite a bit, though. You know, I mean, obviously, if she's anorexic, that would be an issue there. So that would happen then. But exactly where that is, I'm not going to look into it either. The difference between men and women's size, muscle mass, calorie needs means that men typically require diets higher in protein. Men are less sensitive to cold temperatures. And I would assume that part of that would have to do with thicker skin. And I do know that the way that the woman's body is designed is that women are colder in their legs and their hands and arms and feet. And that's because the heat is designed to be more towards their center mass. And it's for child rearing, for birth. And that's just because that's the way the woman's body is designed for everything, is for giving birth. All of it. Women have better senses of smell and taste. They have 50 more cells, neurons, in their olfactory bulbs, the part of the brain responsible for processing smells. Women also usually have more taste buds than men. And they also can see better. I don't know if that's one that is here. The differences in the way men and women see the world is partially physical. On average, men are more likely to be colorblind, but their eyes also sense movement better. Women are also able to distinguish small differences in color better. I've seen they have these glasses now too, where they can fix color blindness. They're like several $100s to do this thing, and they have to know what your color blindness is, because you can be color blind to only certain colors or to all the colors. And how much of a color blindness problem do you have? Is it severe, mild, or light? But what happens is whenever they figure it out, then they have to custom make these glasses for you. Then you put the stupid things on and you wear them for like a week or two, and your eyes will just automatically adjust. So it's actually curable. If you know someone who has this, you might want to look into it, do a little bit of fundraising somehow, because, I mean, whenever it's cured supposedly. And I guess for some reason, if it did relax and go back, I mean, you could just probably pop the things back on. But they have YouTube videos about it too, and people aren't aware of it. You know, they just become accustomed to it. It takes a little while for them to get used to it and adjust. And you can, man, the people who are really colorblind, they're like, holy crap. And they kind of freak out, you know, men and women alike, especially whenever they're older, because it's like, I've been missing out on all this. Yeah, unfortunately. Women get pregnant, give birth, have fallopian tubes, ovaries, uterus, vulva, Skene's glands, Bartholin's glands, have wider and broader hips, larger breasts, less facial hair, higher fat composition, shorter and less muscular. I just copied and pasted that off of Wikipedia. So, men have external genitalia, penis and testicles, far more facial hair, chest hair, broader shoulders, and large Adam's apple, deep voice right there. I'm not going to scroll down with the men and women stuff here on Wikipedia, because I don't know if the images would get me flagged somehow. The men's bench press record is 544 pounds. We're going to click on this. Take a look here. Okay, no, as of 2020, the world record bench press raw, I don't know what the difference is, 770 pounds. The current world equipped record with the bench press shirt, so one is with the shirt and one is without, is 1,105 pounds. And then for an adult female, Becca Swanson, which is a lie, because that is a man, 601 pounds, so he still sucks. So I do not respect this man at all. He is a liar and a cheat and a scoundrel, because he took that title from a woman. I care not what anyone says. This is one thing where whenever I say that I'm here to show that there are lies, that's exactly what I'm doing, and my mind can be changed with things. That holds true for a lot of things. This is not one of them. This man is trash for doing this. With the rest of his life, I don't know. You know what? Is he a good husband? Is he a good father? Whatever he wants to call himself, I don't know. I don't know that. But whenever it comes to weightlifting, he's garbage. So here we're going to listen from a doctor about a little bit about the pelvis. And it's not just the pelvis that's different. There's all the bones are different in some way.
So I just want to do a quick comparison of male versus female pelvis or pelvic girdle. This here is male. This is female.
I mean, that's kind of obvious. I mean, you would expect the male to be larger than the female.
A couple ways you can tell. If you look at the iliac crest, just the way that the ilium sit, the male is going to be sitting up higher, a little bit narrow set.
Right, so if you've got someone with you who you're close enough to, grab them right there at the waist and see if you can tell the differences. Do that with each other. See how pronounced that is.
More narrow set. The female, the ilia are relaxed off to the side just a bit, which gives women wider hips. Okay. Looking at the pelvic inlet, male has more of a circular shape, okay, in this pelvic inlet, and the pelvic outlet is very tiny, very narrow here.
Yeah, and I mean that's not a big surprise. I mean it's all about childbirth.
So compare that to pelvic inlet for female, which is a little bit wider, okay? And then
That's a
much
lot bigger.
larger pelvic outlet, which would be useful for giving birth. Both of these have the coccyx broken off, so you have to keep in mind that's a space that would be further confined. Another place you could compare is at this angle where the pubic rami meet. So in males, notice that this is a pretty acute angle, whereas in females, this is getting closer to 90 degrees.
Oh, yeah. Interesting. And then the woman's, and so Becca Swanson, just if you were curious what this guy looks like. I mean, that's a dude. I mean, if you can't tell by looking, then maybe you need to go in and get some glasses or something, because it's 100% absolutely positively a guy. That is not a woman. I don't give a damn. Go lie to somebody else. And then, there was this lady. She's on the women's U.S. soccer player, and she's wanting equal pay for women. But if we go, what's her name? See if it's got it here. Megan Rapinoe, something like that. And the women's team generated $101 million over the course of 239 games between 2009 to 2019, while the men's team generated $185 million over 191 games, according to the federation. And also, what they're not telling you is that the women, for some reason, have higher expenses. This is also the same with the women's NBA. So with the Women's National Basketball Association, they generate revenues of $60 million annually, but it also has costs in excess of $70 million annually. So the WNBA does not make money. It has turned an average of $10 million net loss revenue cost per year since its inception in 1996. So how do they survive? It's because the NBA gives money to them. It's the only reason that they're around. If they weren't doing that, they would not be here at all. So if you look at the NBA, makes money primarily through television, merchandising, sponsorship, and tickets. And that's what they're not telling you with the soccer, is that the soccer makes that the men actually make a lot more, because they're not adding everything up. But I didn't want to take the time to look it up. The 30 teams making up the NBA has an average valuation of $2.1 billion each in the 2018-2019 seasons. Across the 2018-19 season, the NBA generated about $8.75 billion in revenue. Whenever everything was all taken in for both years, it's not even close. You know what? I wish that they would say, you know what? You're right. We are discriminating pay with men and women, and we should give them the equal percentage that they bring in. And then the women's teams of the soccer and the WNBA would all vanish. And then it would put this argument to rest. Because that's not what's going on at all. They are not being paid fairly. women are being propagated up. And you know why? It's because people just don't watch it. And why don't they watch it? Because the women can't even beat the boys. Here from the Daily Mail. Get out of my face. So from the Daily Mail online here, from world champions to humbling defeat against under 15S side, World Cup winning USA women's team suffered a 5-2 loss against Dallas Academy boys. So they lost to 15-year-old boys in Dallas. USA women's team played warm-up for Russia friendly against Dallas under 15S. Informal game did not go to plan for international side as they lost 5-2. Result did not seem to matter, with the U.S. beating Russia 4-0 in main fixture. It's the same thing in basketball. The women's professional teams lose to high school and junior high boys all the time. And then there she is again. There's Megan again. Just, it's like, what did you forget? I thought women had better memories than men. How did you forget this? How did you forget that you got your butt handed to you by a bunch of 15-year-old boys? That's why you don't get paid as much. You know why? Because you don't play as good as men. It's not exciting. Because whenever men go out there, I mean, they'll tear each other up. Women don't. Women are, I guess you could say, more civilized, and maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. That's all on your perspective. This is going to be a relatively short video because this is, again, going back to the beginning, this is not a debate. There are not two sides to this. And it's because I am not like other men. The world is not filled with clones of me. So I'm not even like other men. And I'm even less like women. And this holds true for every man and woman. Women are not clones. They are not like each other. Women are more like women, though, than men. Women are even less like men. All men and women are not clones. It's not clone A and clone B, clone of men and clone of women. No. Not only that, you're different based off of your age. So not only am I not like other 40-year-old men who are my age, I'm also different from other men who are in their 30s, 20s, teenagers, in their 50s, 60s, 70s. I'm not like those men. I am not like an 80-year-old man. So how can you say that men and women are the same? Whenever men are not even like other men. Whenever women are not even like other women. This whole stupid conversation is a damn waste of time. Whenever you're trying to say that men and women are different. The conversation should be, how different are men and women? And is there anything that we can do to help level the playing field? Because there are some things where we definitely want things to be as good as we can possibly make them. There's a lot of things, such as driving. We want women and men to be able to drive, and so if men are having problems that women don't, well, what can we learn from women? Or vice versa. And we should do that with everything with life. Maybe there are some things that men can learn from women to help make lives better for men, and maybe there are some things that women can learn from men to make lives better for them too. Also the same thing with, maybe there are some things that we can learn from senior citizens that could help the rest of us younger people out there. Maybe there are some things from middle-aged folks that could help out children. I mean, that's kind of what school is about, isn't it? Is that people have figured out things, we teach it to the children, so then that way they don't have to figure this stuff out all meticulously, one thing at a time through research and science. No, it's like, here's a cheat sheet. We call it a textbook, so you don't have to do it, and we're just gonna lay it all out there for you. And that's kind of the problem. I saw this other video where there was this girl. She was talking about how people were not doing enough research, and that they were stupid, and that they should look into these issues more. And it's like, no, that's absolutely wrong. If that's the way that we did things, I would probably still be going through junior high school right now. If I had to physically, manually look up every tidbit of information and fact check every single stupid thing in all those textbooks and all those classes, that would take forever. The reason why we have a school and it works is because we are just putting faith and trust that the material being presented to us is accurate. That's part of the problem that we're having, though, today, is that maybe some of this stuff isn't. The problem is not that we need to fact check every stupid single thing out there. The problem is that, yes, there are people who are lazy, and it's especially important whenever it is a person where it's their job to know, and they don't. It's a problem whenever we are surrounded and we're constantly fed fake information, whether if it's fake news or it's fake information from politicians or it's fake garbage from some company out there. That's the problem. The problem is that people are allowed to lie, and businesses and politicians and all this stuff. If it's not a field that you deal with, I'm willing to let things slide. But whenever you're directly correlated to it and you're still spouting off lies, yeah, I'm going to hold you to it. I'm not an expert in any of this stuff. I'm not an expert with the differences between men and women. I'm not a doctor. That's not what I'm claiming to know something about. I'm claiming to know how to set up a system to deal with liars, with all these lying ideas and all this stuff out here. We need one source where all of this stuff is fact-checked, that everyone can rely on, and I know exactly how to do this. Big, stupid, stinking grind ahead of me. I would appreciate your support. If you too don't want to be lied to, you don't want to be manipulated, give this video a like, give it a thumbs up. Have Patreon and Subscribe Star. I would really appreciate the support, because the sooner we get going, the sooner it's going to be for everyone. Hope you've enjoyed the video. We'll talk to you again. Thanks for watching. Bye.